So this hand was played at Parx Casino.
Yeah.
The blinds are 10, 10, 20, and we're about 2,500 effective with the main villain.
10, 10. So this is Parks, and this is the 10-10 game with a straddle. Is it mandatory? Why can't I write this? Is it mandatory or what?
No, it's not mandatory, but a
Okay.
lot of people are doing it.
Is this the Tuesday game?
No, but I know that game's really big. It was on a Friday night.
Okay. Yep.
Yep. So there is a straddle on this hand,
Mhm.
and I am on the button with 7, 8 of hearts.
Okay.
There were 2 early position limps. The cutoff, who I don't really have much history with, but he seemed not to like get out of line too much. He made it 80. And I think here I can go either way between a 3-bet or a call, but I decided to 3-bet because I thought that there was a lot of dead money that I could take right now. But I think both are fine. So I make it 240, 3x.
Yeah, just one thing of note here is that, and maybe it's just something to notice, is that do you think that the cutoff is lighter here when he's ISOing 2 limps or tending to be stronger versus just opening?
Yeah, I think if he's a competent player, that he could be trying to steal the dead money if he recognizes that there were early position limps and there's a lot of dead money out there. I mean, in theory, he should be tighter because he has to worry about getting through more people. But
I mean, I
still think
always
that
I always advocate for a very easy game plan for some people that ask me this, who are sort of new about how they should respond to limpers in front of them. I always say ignore 1 limp and open what you would open from a normal position. But then when it gets to 2 limps, maybe like 2 to 3, really only open the hands that you'd be opening from early position. Then you can develop some over limps. It's just something to note. This one might be kind of in between, whether or not that this is. I mean, your hand is definitely going to be played better as a 3-bet to get it heads up than even with position. Again, multi-way, like non-nut suited connectors, I think we've seen the data that where it's just they just don't play that well,
Yeah. So with that, I decided I 3-bet, and it folds back to the cutoff who makes the call.
Yeah, and you 3-bet kind of. Well, I mean, 3x.
Yeah, I think I could go a little bit larger because of the limpers, but maybe like 270 or something. But yeah, I was just thinking 3x at the time, and he made the call. So the flop, or the pot on the flop, was about a little over 500. Okay, so the flop looks pretty good. It's 7, 8 jack with 2 diamonds. I know in the email you asked me about if the jack was a diamond, and I can't recall 100%, but I think for this video, let's assume that it was, because it makes the decision a little bit harder.
So jack of diamonds, 7 of hearts, and then rainbow. Is that right?
Well, I had 8, 7 of hearts, so like 7 of clubs, 8 of diamonds.
Oh, 7 of clubs, 8 of diamonds. So jack of diamonds, 7 of clubs, 8 of diamonds.
Yep.
Okay.
So pretty good flop for
bottom
my
2.
hand. Yep, bottom 2. So the cutoff checks, and the pot was about 550, and I bet 300. So I'm feeling pretty good about my hand until he decides to check raise to 1.1k. So he throws the pumpkin chip in there.
Oh, from the lady Katie she was talking about.
I saw that video. This is also my first time playing.
Oh,
I usually
first
play
time with the
2-5,
pumpkin chip.
Yeah, I was taking a shot because I heard that the game is softer on the weekends, so I wanted to check it out. But
so we'll just do a quick little review here for the podcast listeners. You 3-bet 7, 8 of hearts on the button at 240, and the cutoff calls. It's heads up. It's right around 520 or so, and the board comes out jack 7, 8 with 2 diamonds. You flop bottom 2, cutoff checks. You bet 300, and the cutoff check raises to 1100. You guys started with 25, right? So I mean, even just doing a little bit of math here, if you call, the pot is, the pot is going to be like 27, and you only have like 12 left, right? Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's exactly what was going on in my mind. So in this spot, like, I had several things I was thinking about. One is like, is my hand really beating any value that he could be doing this with? Or do I just have a pure bluff catcher?
Well, this is interesting because, again, we can visualize the fact that you have about 12 left, and if you call, the pot is like, 27. This kind of reminds me again of a hand that I played on the lodge that I'd like to have back, where I ended up folding my against Trey, where I had Jack 10 of diamonds and a 4-bet pot, and he check raised me. Is there any value that he might have? Once in a while, you might see a guy play like aces like this, but the fact that you block a lot of these sets here. Now, obviously, he might have 9-10 suited for 4 combos, but I think that there's also a lot of draws here as well. So usually, like you said, usually I would say probably the value has you beat, but not all the time. If he has like aces or kings and he was just going to quote unquote go with it or something like that, because you're really not all that deep, right? I mean, you're really like 100 BBs. This is a 3-bet pot, and we're talking about live sizing. So the SPR is way, way down. That's one of the things that people don't understand about live poker when they look at a hand like on paper. It's much shallower just because of the open sizing. So if a guy was going to play aces or kings like this, he might just pile, right? When he doesn't see like an ace or a king, because what else is he going to do? Especially on a super dynamic board. So there's that. But I'm trying to think of kind of the way that I might play this hand, where I might call and then just get it in on a non-diamond type of turn, because I think a lot of equity might reveal itself on the turn. Also, your hand too. I'm just once in a great while, if you see like a jack or something, that would be an interesting spot here too, because your hand is slightly vulnerable with bottom two, to getting counterfeit. This is straight out of like an Omaha type of thing. I'm never folding here right now. The real question is whether you want to jam now, or do you want to wait and sort of see a card and see how the equity kind of reveals itself. But I cannot get on board with folding bottom two and what in essence is like a 100 BB spot here,
Yeah, I agree with you. I think also, given that I 3-bet and the board came like this is probably one of the best hands I could have here. Like,
sure, besides Jack, right?
Jacks, 9-10 suited sometimes, but
yeah.
But yeah, like this is one of the best. So I couldn't fold.
And you're also blocking like a bunch of the value too, right? Which are the other sets here.
Yeah. The one thing I was thinking about though, I did decide to jam, but the one thing I was thinking about was like, what if I'm just drawing completely dead here? And you never really want to get your money in like with no equity.
Yeah, but you can't. Like, you mean against like jacks? You mean?
9-10 suited, or
you're not drawing dead against 9-10 suited, right? I mean, you have some equity. I mean, you're basically drawing dead against jacks. I mean,
have to hit runner quads for that.
Right. But still, it's a shallow spot. I mean, I think that this is a good sort of thing a lesson that you can sort of take out of this too, because if you were stepping up, people will sometimes forget, especially in a straddle pot, of what is this hand comprised of? Like, what is the straddle? How deep am I starting here? Because I see a lot of people play these straddle pots very, very poorly, where they're not recognizing, especially people that are short. Oh my God. Like people that are playing 25 big blinds. I see this on Hustler too. 25 big blinds effective with the straddle and flat with pocket sevens against a raise. It's just insanity, So you're really just, you're really not that deep. But sometimes when we step up, and maybe this might be the biggest pot that you'll ever play in your life, you can't let some of that stuff cloud you. I mean, like I said, I am never folding here. The question becomes, am I just going to get it in now, or am I going to call? I mean, God, if a diamond were to come, are there any times where if the guy shoved that he would somehow be bluffing here? I'm trying to think. And of course, some of these straightening cards are also bad for you here too, like an offsuit 9 or an offsuit 10. It just sucks to be put in a situation where you might possibly fold the best hand.
See, I actually thought it was between folding or jamming, because I didn't really think that we should have any calling range here, given that, as you said, if I call, the pot would be like almost 3,000 and I'd only have like 1,200 behind effective. So,
well, wouldn't you? Yeah, but shouldn't you be? Let's say that you had like ace, queen of diamonds here or something like that. I mean, I'd probably call, unless somehow I thought that like there was a good chunk of like I was dominating a bunch of draws, but if you do the combos in this configuration, the value just kills it. And again, on the flip side to that too, sometimes like with a draw like that, if you were to pick up a queen or an ace, you might have to, I'm saying specifically ace queen, let's say for example, ace queen of diamonds. If you were to pick up a pair, you would probably have to go with it too. Just because you've got extra outs for, possibly like beating a counterfeit two pair or something like that. Or if the guy had, kings or ace, some sort of overpair and was just going with it, or obviously a diamond, but then, if you call on the board pairs or it's just a total break and he jams, then you can get away from it with a fold. So I think that you might have some calls in a spot like this, and maybe it might incentivize him to do some jamming on blank turns where he otherwise might have given up because your hand is looking like it is a draw. I think it's pretty close. I'm just not folding, that's for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought about it for a while. I actually wanted to fold almost because, as I said about drawing dead against some hands, and especially
you're just always folding like aces here.
That's actually something I wanted to ask later, is how I would play an overpair in this spot.
I mean, if you're thinking about possibly folding 7-8, then obviously you're folding overpairs, but maybe it sounds like you're not always betting as much.
Yeah, I think without a diamond, the aces becomes a call. But yeah, with a diamond, I might consider folding the overpairs.
Also, too, something that I washed over here, which was your flop sizing. I mean, you took a fairly large sizing here on
a little over half pot.
Yeah, I mean, on this board. Now people are like, well, it's interesting about how you would construct what is your 3-betting range here as it compares to the guy who's going to defend. I mean, if this caller is 3-betting 7-8 suited, then he's probably 3-betting 9-10, jacks, 7s, or maybe not 7s. I don't know. I mean, it's probably pretty close in a late configuration type of scenario. So, when the defender has a huge sort of board advantage based upon the configuration, yeah, the sizing should reflect that. But here it's late versus late, it's always going to be close.
I thought that this board had a lot of both our hands could hit this board really well. So usually, like when this is the case, I bet large and less frequently.
So what ended up happening?
Yeah, so I jammed and he snap called and he showed pocket eights. So I was drawing dead.
Pretty much. Well, yeah, that's
but
that's the worst.
Yeah.
I would chalk that up to a cooler, and I'm not just saying that. I wouldn't be too concerned. I mean, it would be a much, much tougher spot if you had chosen this type of sizing with an overpair like aces or something like that. But I think with 7-8, when you're blocking a lot of this stuff, I think it's a no-brainer. I think it's just actually even more interesting how you should proceed. It can never be bad to jam this shallow. So what was the turn, by the way? Do you remember? I'm just curious.
I think it was like the king of diamonds or something, but yeah, that would have helped me get away easier. Like if I just called and he decided to jam the turn, but yeah, we got our money in on the flop. And
wow, king of diamonds is a terrible card. It actually probably shuts down a lot of the action. If you had called and then the king of diamonds comes, that's got to be I mean, I think at that point for him, he's probably just going to go with it. He has equity against I mean, that's kind of sucks, but there's only one. Once you get down to like a half SPR, what can you do with a set? But
yeah, exactly. I think if we were deeper here, I would definitely call instead of raise. Mm-hmm. The reason I decided to jam was because I just thought there were so many bad, like any overcard really, or like the jack pairing or 9 or 10 or diamond. It's like a lot of cards are bad for me. But like I was conflicted again because I didn't know whether like I have a pure bluff catcher, like if he's value betting a worse hand playing like this, or if I should just push my equity and go with it.
Again, I think that sometimes you might see reflection this shallow of some overpairs played this way. But even if he doesn't have value that you beat, because you block a lot of the value, his overall range is going to be skewed more towards draws, right? If a lot of his values are 7s and 8s and you block a lot of that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I justified it like that too. So yeah, pretty much just couldn't really get away from this, but
all right, man. Well, good luck. Good luck to you. Was that the biggest pot you've lost ever?
Yeah, by a mile.
biggest pot you've played ever?
Yeah.
I gotta give you props for taking the aggressive route. Usually someone who's stepping up to 10, 10, 20 isn't gonna 3-bet 7, 8 suited on the button when it's close. They'll sort of default to call or fold if they really want to play nitty. So
oh yeah. No, I can't. I don't think I can ever fold a suited connector versus a cutoff open. So.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for the call. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right.